Welcome to Missed Mando, a disc golf podcast covering the disc golf world. I'm your host, Robbie Holden. Joining me, as always, is my friend and co-host, Sean Galbraith. We will be joined a little bit later as well by our long-lost pal, Galen Naidu-Harris. But Sean, first to you, how are you, and what have you been up to since our last episode?
Doing great. The weather is starting to get a little nicer, and been getting out and doing a little playing. I played the Bond Lake Open in Western New York last weekend, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. I love that course. It's great. It's got elevation. It's got tunnels. It's got trees. It's got water. I placed 5th, which was I'm pretty happy about. I came in to the tournament ranked the lowest in the MA40 division, as per usual. And I managed to beat a few guys, which was pretty cool, and finished 40 points above my rating. That was pretty good. I got a little baby 2-point bump in my rating this week, which was pretty cool. How about you?
What'd you complain about a little ratings bump?
No, it's great.
Absolutely. Last weekend I played in the USDGC doubles qualifier at Haute Goat. This was the second in a couple weekends. I know a few weekends ago there was a USDGC qualifier in Guelph, but I didn't go to that one. This time I was paired up with my buddy Joe Yeomans from the Stones Throw Club. We've talked about his brother Carter on the podcast before. He won the Winter Thaw tournament earlier in the year in MA1. But yeah, we didn't qualify. Spoiler alert. I'll just get that out of the way right off the bat.
It's tough competition.
Basically, yeah. In doubles qualifiers, you have to shoot real hot. Basically, we would have had to go perfect in order to get there. The top 2 teams qualified, and both of them, I believe, were pretty close to being at literally a perfect score. We played 2 rounds, 1 round of 21, 1 round of 18.
21.
I know that.
Wow.
And the 21 hole layout was a mixture of a bunch of different layouts from Haute Goat. So we got some tees from the golds. I think it actually might have just been 1 gold tee pad. But then some of the mids, shorts, and even some of the ace place course was on that layout. So, just some little less than 200 foot shots, really taking ace runs, which in a doubles competition is super fun. But yeah, both rounds there were teams that went perfect. In round 1 there was someone that went neg 21 through 21 holes, and in round 2 there was a team that went neg 18 through 18, and that team went on to qualify. And the second team to qualify was actually Carter, my partner's brother, and his partner Kyle. So unfortunately, I had to send my partner back in a car ride with his brother who did qualify, which that must have been an awkward car ride for you. So sorry, Joe. Sorry we couldn't get it done, buddy. But it was a fun day nonetheless. I mean, unsanctioned events, doubles events like that are really about the fun. The qualifying is just the bonus. So it was an absolute blast.
How did you like the new 18-hole Haute Goat layout? It's a preview of what's going to be used for the Q series in September.
Yeah, we didn't get to use all of the gold tee pads, of course. I'll actually get a taste of that, I believe, in I think it's like a month, the NADGT qualifier at Haute Goat, the tournament that I'll be playing in. And I believe we get to play the golds in one of the layouts. But the difference of some of the holes, I did get to play it actually through the winter, quote unquote winter, that we had out here in Southern Ontario. And I loved some of the changes. New hole 16, which used to just chew me up. I remember taking like a triple bogey on that in a tournament before.
Yep.
Now is a lot like a tighter wooded line. It's pushed further off to the right.
There's that risk reward.
Goat.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. In round one, I just overshot the perfect landing spot where we would have just been able to cut right across the rest of the field.
Did you go OB or did you just get blocked by the trees?
Hyzer.
You had to go
just
Hyzer
overshot it. Yeah. So then we had to Hyzer around. Still had an eagle look at it too, but Joe and I both missed our eagle putt. But shout out to Daryl and everything that he does out there. He's put a ton of work into that course, and it's awesome, honestly, and it's super unique. I mean, on the way out for round two, I got to witness a nice little goat herd on the way out with one of the workers there and a bunch of other people that were there, like, for the actual goat experience. It's not just a disc golf course.
I believe what they call the goat schmergle.
Oh, is that what it's called?
The schmergle, yes.
The schmergle.
You get to schmergle the goats.
Love it. That's a unique experience you can only get at Hope Goats. So
absolutely,
definitely worth it. And I mean, there's a couple times where I was just on a hole and I was like, I wonder how Gannon Burr is going to play this in September when he's here for the Diameter Open. Much better than I played. I can guarantee you that. Great course.
Absolutely love it. Playing it this year, like 3 weeks ago or something like that, I've learned to appreciate it a little bit more now that I've gotten a little bit longer of an arm with a little bit more control. It's a course that definitely benefits from that, and so it's also a little bit more lefty friendly than it used to be. So it's climbing my list of top courses.
And I mean, like you just said, now that you've gotten a bit of a longer arm, you can enjoy it better. You do have to, if you're going to play any of the standard layouts, especially if, I guess now they have shorts, mids, and longs with the new gold tees. But even the just standard short layouts have some par 4s and 5s.
Definitely.
They really need an arm for, but also shout out, I love the way that they've incorporated I think they call it like the purple goat. That's their 8th place course.
Yes.
That's incorporated into it as well. I want to go out and play just a full round on that course.
Let's do it.
The way that you can incorporate everything from a short 8th place to a gold layout that's going to challenge top pros, that is fantastic course design.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's get into tournament recap mode.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll start off on the local side of things. We had the Christie Lake Spring Fling, which has become a tradition over the first weekend in May and held once again at the Christie Lake Conservation Area. I believe for the 14th time. I went back and looked through the PDGA archives and just typed in Christie Lake Spring Fling. And from what I could see, this is the 14th version of the Spring Fling, and it is once again, after last year was the same, it's once again being played on an extended 27-hole layout. This year's Fling had 185 players competing across 17 divisions, and it's the 4th stop on the OCC Provincial Qualifying Series. In FBO, Alexandra Paletto took down the win by 1 stroke over Sandy Hendel, with friend of the show Rebecca Dawn rounding out the podium in 3rd. This is Alexandra's 2nd career B-tier win in FBO after she won last year's Diameter Open. And over on the MPO side, it was Ontario legend Marty Hendel getting the win by 3 strokes over Cam Zanini, with Calvin Rorta jumping into 3rd place after shooting a 10.47 neg 14 in the final round, which I believe was the hot round for the whole tournament. For Marty, this is his 65th career win, with 59 of those wins coming in Ontario. Local legend, to say the least. And we are recording this on ratings day as well. And after a 2-point ratings bump, Marty is officially the sole owner of the highest rated Canadian disc golfer. Sean, let's throw it over to you for some of your thoughts on this event.
That is all well and good, but I think we missed one of the big wins in one of the divisions. You know what I'm talking about? I think it's I'm just looking at the camera behind you. I think it's just off frame. There we go. Tell me about that owl disc right there, because I think if I'm looking at the scores correctly, that is Robbie Holden, friend of the show and co-host of the show, takes down MA1 at the Spring Fling. Tell us about it.
A pretty sweet trophy disc too.
Fantastic trophy. Love this design.
It looks amazing. Yeah, the biggest win of my career, only the second of my career, but definitely the biggest. I mean, it was a 32 person field, I believe, in MA1. I was like mid to low. I think I was below the 50% mark in terms of like rating of the players in the division, and yeah, just played super clean. I had my buddy Josh with me, caddying for me both rounds. So huge shout out to him as well, because 27 holes in one day. I mean, that can definitely get a little taxing on you. So that definitely helped me out there. But I don't even know. Unfortunately I should have had an easy walk-in win, but made it a little interesting towards the end and went +6 in the last 7 holes to end up going to a playoff. But one playoff hole, I hit a huge circle 2 putt. I should remember his name right off the top of my head. John, Van Wingarden.
Yes.
He had like a 20-footer after that, and unfortunately missed to give me the win.
What were the playoff holes?
So the playoff hole was the first temporary hole. So the
ones across the field.
Yep, across the field. I came up a little short and left, like right at the edge of the bushes and stuff that's on the left hand side.
Were those playing as OB?
It wasn't playing as OB. More just kind of like natural OB.
Just bad.
Yeah. You just, if you actually get in there, you don't really have a putt at anything. So I was just on the edge, probably 35, 36 feet, somewhere in there. And just I figured I was outside of circle 2, but I was like, it's a little close, and I was like, I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to stay stagger stance, and was just a perfect putt. And luckily, like I said, I had my buddy Josh there caddying for me, so he was able to get a video of it as well. So I don't know how many times I've watched that video in the past week since the event.
Absolutely fantastic. Congratulations. Love to hear it. First of many, I am sure.
Thank you, my friend. And of course, I was out there spreading the good word about the Missed Mando podcast and telling everybody to come and listen to us and our hot disc golf takes, which one of yours is catching on, which I think we might get to a little later.
Love to hear it. In the pro divisions, like you said, Marty Hendel, I mean, he was in control of this thing from start to finish. He had a neg 10 round 1 and a neg 11 in round 2. He averaged 10.25. Round 2 was totally clean, no bogeys. He just he showed why he's the top player in Canada. Just absolutely shredded their course. Do you know if he laid down any of his patented Marty Hendel dad rollers? Because there might have been some holes on this course that might have benefited from a patented Marty roller.
I unfortunately didn't get to see any of the MPO play.
You had like on the course super early tee time, if I remember right.
Yeah, round 1 I teed off at 7:50. I was the second tee time of the entire day. It was one card of juniors, and then they put MA1s. And then I think after us must have been the FA1s and then the pros, and they backloaded the lower amateur divisions at the end of the day. So my buddy Tyler, who was staying at my place for the weekend, just to have a shorter drive, I was able to finish my first round come back and hang out with him for a little bit before he even had to leave to go warm up for his round. That's how much time there was between it. But
185 players, man, it takes a while.
Yeah, and a 27-hole layout. I think both rounds we were able to get through in about 4.5 hours. So an hour and a half per 9, which is pretty good, honestly. And honestly, I kind of like the morning round. Like once I got out for the initial 15 minutes of, oh my God, I'm so tired right now. It was great. So, and maybe a little bit less wind in the mornings. I didn't stick around to feel the wind in the afternoon, but who knows?
I'm used to, sometimes I play MA3, and that's very much a first card of the day division, usually. So I'm kind of used to getting up that early, but it's nice coming in from Toronto to Hamilton. I'd be pretty glad to not have that early of a tee time for a 27-hole tournament.
Yeah, I think I left the house for round 1 at 6:30 a.m.
It's unpleasant. It's unpleasant.
Yeah. I left the house in a much better mood than I do on a standard work day, though, because I was going to play disc golf.
And certainly in a much better mood round 2, as you mentioned, Calvin Ruda. His second round, absolutely incredible. He's that minus 14, even with a bogey. And I note that he got the bogey on the shortest hole on the course, which seemed to give a bunch of people some trouble. Thing's only 186 feet long, but there were a fat stack of bogeys on that thing. I don't know what was up. I don't even know which with the changed layout. I don't even know which hole it actually is and the regular.
So that actually was standard hole 16. That's when that's the one section of the scorecard that actually is accurate. Of 16, 17, 18 are actually holes 16, 17, 18 on Christie. So that's just the short one that breaks slightly to the right around that thick tree. That's kind of
I love that hole. That's
same.
Me, I'm as a lefty. That is very much a must birdie hole for me.
Yeah,
I just
lefty for sure.
Zone boom. Yeah, that's that's one of the only good holes for me on that entire course.
And Calvin is a forehand specialist.
Absolutely,
I would describe him as. So that
he's got a 400 plus foot forehand.
So that maybe not should be right in his wheelhouse. Not. Yeah, maybe, because he doesn't know how to soften up on it. No, that's a lie. He's got great touch.
He clearly made up for it with the rest of the 15 birdies that he got in 27 holes. Absolute scorcher of a round. Super excited to see Alex Paletto's continued great progress in disc golf. Her first round, she finishes with a 6-stroke lead over second place, and it was just enough to take it down by 1 stroke in the end. You only need to win by 1, so it gives a little bit of a comfort padding there. You can give away a few. But it's really, really great to see how well she's doing. I played with her played a card with her out at Haute Goat, and it's just she absolutely destroyed me. It was super fun to watch. She's so good, and I think absolutely. I've seen her putting a lot at the East End Putting League. And I'm pretty sure she won it for the women's division this year, and was absolutely no surprise that she did. This is a really nice win for her leading into Foxwood this coming long weekend, and that leads us into what are the upcoming Ontario tournaments. The first one, as I said, is Foxwood. This is the first really big tournament in the Ontario calendar, I would say. It's
first A-tier in Canada season.
Is it first in Canada? Cool.
Sure.
Probably, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think any of the BC has more than we do here, but I think theirs are in the summer. Yeah,
that would make sense.
I'm pretty sure I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the first Canadian A tier.
Cool. Out at Foxwood, in Kitchener, or is it Waterloo? I forget.
It's technically Baden.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know
right.
how you pronounce it.
West of Waterloo.
Yeah.
Out that way.
Exactly.
At the Foxwood Golf Club. I played it last year. I got smoked. It's a super fun long golf course with lots of OB everywhere. Real challenging track, but lots of fun. It's the course where I showed up unfortunately late for one of my rounds and was going to take a +4, but the TD said if you can tee off, if you can catch your card who are slow walking up the first fairway, you can keep playing. And then they ended up taking a +5 on the hole because I threw OB like 800 times. It was not my finest moment in disc golf, but it was a good lesson on make sure your car starts in the morning before you have to leave at the last minute.
Yes, and that is a wise decision.
Are you playing Foxwood?
I will be. Yep. I'm very excited for it. I went out for a practice round on Friday. I'm going to go again this coming Friday just because they didn't have some alternative baskets, alternative tee pads. The UDisc layout was updated, but I didn't want to just kind of be guessing where the tee pads and stuff were. So I'm gonna go back out again on Friday. The course is only like a 30-minute drive from my house, so it's plenty easy for me to get to. But I love this tournament. This was my first ever provincials in 2019. Was 2 rounds at Foxwood, 2 rounds at Chicopee, which for hopefully we get that course back. With so many people have started playing disc golf through the COVID boom and never got to experience Chicopee.
I am one of those people.
Fun course. What a fun course. So hopefully that comes back soon. But Foxwood, I've always loved that course ever since I started going there. Similar to what you were saying about car trouble, I also learned the hard way to, if you're playing in a shotgun start tournament at Foxwood, show up plenty early, not 10 minutes before your tee time when you have to sprint to the entire opposite side of the property. Because that's a long way to go. All the way to hole 12.
Oh, no.
And let's just say my cardio is not the greatest.
And you are in a division of 56 players. That is a monster division.
Yeah, it's going to be, I'm hoping I can do, I think I finished in the top 10 last year, or at least I was on chase card in the final round, I believe, and hopefully I didn't collapse enough to drop out of the top 10, but maybe I did. I think I finished in the top 10, and I just pulled up the registration list myself because there was a really big name in the MPO field that is now not listed there, unfortunately. The last time that I checked out this registration, one Greg Barsby was registered to play world champ. And yeah, I do not see Greg's name on the list anymore.
That is
but
too bad.
There are still some big names. Kim Scott Wood playing, I'm going to assume his first tournament of the year. I don't remember seeing it.
He doesn't play too many these days.
No. He is technically the highest rated Canadian. But when you don't play as many tournaments, there's a little bit of a caveat with it. But also in the field, Marty Hendel and Thomas Gilbert as well. So we've got a good trio of Canadian talent there looking to battle it out. And this is, of course, a USDGC qualifier. Top 2 players that aren't already qualified for USDGC will earn their qualification to go down to Rock Hill in September or October. I think it's October. Early October.
Yeah. Chantel Badinsky, friend of the show, will be playing as well as, of course, Colleen McInnes, Sandy Hendel, The hums are coming down from Sudbury, Rebecca Dawn, Alex Paletto. It's a really solid 10-woman FPO field. And again, 56 players in MA1 and another 56 players in MA2. Absolutely stacked field. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going camping this weekend instead, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic time finishing middle of the pack. There's some ballers. I mean, no offense, but there's some ballers who are showing up to this thing in MA1.
Yeah, the MA1 just sorting by rating. The top rated player in the division is Zach Knipp from Wyoming, Michigan. I've met him once before. He actually comes up to the Dreammaker tournament every year, and won MA1 there last year. He is a really good player, and Carter Yeoman's 966 rated. They are more than 15 ratings points ahead of the next closest in the registration list. So
wow.
We'll see if those guys can prove their ratings true, or if someone else in this super deep field. 56. That might be the biggest field I've ever played in that isn't nationals.
Huge. Yeah. You're gonna have such a great time. Hopefully the weather cooperates for you, and hopefully. You'll have a great time.
Yeah. What else is going on coming up, Shawnee?
The only other event between now and our next episode is a Canadian women's event in St. Catharines. There's still space available for that, I believe. That takes place the weekend after the long weekend, and I'm sure will be a lot of fun. We're going to be there for it.
There actually is at least one other tournament. I'm just pulling up the disc golf scene here, but I know that the same weekend, just because I had to choose between either Foxwood or this other tournament, the Black Fly Fling is also coming up this weekend, being held at, I believe it's Tom Thompson Park.
Up in South River.
Yep. And that is the next stop on the OCC qualifying series as well. So a bunch of players will be up there looking for provincial qualifying spots. Not sure. I think let's take a quick little peek here. Oh no, that was the wrong one.
78 players. 78 players registered. It's a full house.
Nice.
Friend of the show, Spencer Young, is going to be there, your sponsor.
Hey.
Another friend, Oz, is going to be there, Chris Oslands. Our friend Marcus Schmidt.
I was just... Then I believe you are looking at him in the NPO division,
moving on up.
Will be Marcus's first NPO event. He's been hyping himself up going into that. I've been hyping him up too. I want him to do well. Love Marcus.
Fantastic. Yeah. That is, I've not had the pleasure of playing that event. I've heard nothing but excellent things. I've played the course. It's a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to hearing how that all goes down.
Yeah, I've heard great things about that event too. It's unfortunate that it lands on the same weekend as Foxwood every year, it seems, or at least for the past 2 years that I can remember. Because a big A tier like that, only 30 minutes from where I live, is pretty hard for me to turn down. But I want to get out there for this event because I hear it's just a great vibe, like every single year. So
absolutely,
hopefully it's in the cards for me eventually here. But Shawnee G, why don't you say we move on to some pro tour recaps or some pro coverage in general, and starting off with actually an A-tier event. Last weekend was the Las Vegas Challenge. It's the event which used to kick off the Pro Tour every year, but is now just an A-tier, although still a very well-attended A-tier. The next stop on the Disc Golf Pro Tour here in North America, with now it being a little bit split to Europe, is the OTB Open in California. So coming from Kansas for DDO, and driving out towards California. Makes a lot of sense to make a little pit stop in Las Vegas. So it was still very well attended. In MPO, it was Connor Rock who got the win over Gannon Burr and Calvin Heimberg. Not very familiar with Connor Rock. I don't think I have heard his name before this event at all. He went absolutely nuclear in the last round. I think it was neg 14, like 1080 something rated, to come back and take down the win. So huge win over, like we said, Gannon Burr and Calvin Heimberg. I mean, those are the names at the top of the board. I'd say you'd throw AB in there this season. So huge win for him. Over in FPO, it was Lucky Lorenzen. I'm pretty sure I'm saying her first name right. Lucky. It's like very close to lucky, but not lucky. I try. She takes down the win with Sofia Donnecke from Victoria, British Columbia, finishing in second. And you know what? Speaking of Sofia, we are super excited to have her join us for an interview, which we're going to go to right now. So we'll be right back on Missed Mando with Sofia Donnecke.
I first saw our guest playing at the Tournament Capital Open in Kamloops in 2023, where she placed third. I was spectating at the end of the 487-foot long hole 14, and somebody mentioned that I should watch this next throw, and she nearly hit me. Her drive on that, on even the next hole was even longer, and it was even more impressive. Now she has 8 wins in 23 events, including first place at last year's BC Open, and she is absolutely on the rise on the Pro Tour. With this week's ratings update, she is now the second highest rated Canadian FPO player and is the current Canadian FPO cash leader in 2024. And when she's not out driving most players in FPO, she got her PhD in chemistry last year. I am very happy to welcome to Missed Mando, Team Innova's own Dr. Sofia Donnecke. And I think I said that your last name correctly.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Fantastic.
What an intro.
On a previous episode, you gave me a helpful voice memo on how to pronounce your last name, because I noticed on the coverage they weren't getting it. They weren't getting it correct. I don't think. A lot of Donneckes.
I'm pretty desensitized to it now. I think I got Dunchek sometimes, so I don't know where that one came from, but I'm pretty desensitized just because we dropped an umlaut on the O actually coming to Canada.
Okay.
So it's actually German. It's Donnecke. But okay. I even introduced myself as Donnecke to help, or Donnecke to help people know how to spell my name.
Eliezra Midling is the same. She's very forgiving in everybody who calling her Eliezra, which is not how to pronounce her name, apparently.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you say your name again? Is it Scene?
Yes, it's Scene. Scene is
I always get that wrong.
I get that very often.
Oh, okay.
I actually do get Scene a lot. So far this year, you've played Maricopa, the Memorial, you've played some other A tiers, and most recently, last weekend, the Las Vegas Challenge. Are you basically on tour now as a professional disc golfer? And like, is being a PhD in chemistry like your fallback career?
So that's a great question. I didn't really have a plan going into this year. I got picked up by Innova. I had to hit a certain number of events, and my husband, Brett, is finishing his PhD. So it's sort of a perfect time for me I do a lot of chemistry tutoring. I substitute lecture at our local college a little bit here and there. So I'm doing a bit of chemistry work that's related to my degree. But it was really a chance for me to try and push into some events that I'd have to travel and take time for before getting like a permanent job or anything like that. And honestly, I'm not super keen on picking up a full-time job right now even. So it's been a lot of fun. And the plan was to just kind of see what it's like, see where I can push my game to for this year, basically. So, yeah.
So how has it been for you kind of out on the road? Are you doing like van life? Are you doing Airbnb? What's your kind of on the road setup looking like?
So I've actually tried a bit of everything. I've sort of had a couple trips down to Arizona where I flew, and I was able to stay with some family, extended family down there, which was really great. And then when I'm in California, those events, we have more direct family, so I'm also staying with family. And then there's a couple events where I was driving down from Canada. On this current trip, I have my car with me, so I'm living out of my car, staying with friends sometimes, splitting B&Bs or hotels other times, and camping here and there as well. So just testing everything out. Sadly, I don't have a van. It's a sedan, and I have my bike on the back of the car so I can like do a bit of workouts. So it's
and you're rather tall, so sleeping in the sedan may be not the most comfortable.
I've done it after a climbing trip last summer and it actually worked out. It's a luxury sedan. It's like basically it's a Sonata, so it's people in the back seat have more room than in my friend's SUVs. It's a very long car, and it's sneakily nice. Actually, it's a lot of stuff. So I think my favorite so far has been events where I can have my car. I don't like flying to events that much, just because you have to pack certain things and then you have to go to the airport, rent a car, and this way I can just have all these things that I like to have for everyday life. I can be independent, driving places. And I also like traveling with people. I'm not a huge fan of traveling alone. So I'm kind of getting a sense of how to set myself up for being in a good headspace at events.
Love that.
Yeah,
it's
been great.
Amazing. And how has the reception been so far, especially from the other pros, and especially as they're seeing you on the course? You're throwing pretty far out there. How are you finding the faces that are joining you on your cards and on tour?
It's been phenomenal. That's partly why I'm actually like considering sticking around, is because it's been like surprisingly, I knew everyone was awesome, but it's been people have gone above and beyond to introduce themselves and get to know me. And I feel like every event I'm meeting more and more fellow pros and just tournament staff and folks that are really involved in the sport, and they're just making sure that I feel welcome and that if I need anything, they're there. And so it's been really nice, really awesome.
Absolutely. Love to hear it. And
as you'd expect, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I've only volunteered at some Pro Tour events, and everybody from the Pro Tour staff has certainly been incredible and really welcoming and really really fun to deal with and really easy to deal with. I'm not surprised it translates as well to the actual players. So I looked at your tournament schedule, and it looks like you're playing all of the West Coast swing, which makes sense. You're from Victoria. I presume that you're making your way back up the coast. Which of the West Coast swing events are you most looking forward to? And how has it been managing a tour schedule? Certainly being Canadian, I don't know if you have dual citizenship or anything, but we can only be in the States for so many days a year. Has that been difficult to sort of organize?
Yeah, so my plan right now is to be back in Canada for the summer. I haven't really planned my schedule too far into the fall. I'm going to Australia for the Team World Championships in November. So I do have a long stretch in the US right now. But I wasn't worried about exceeding the number of days I could be in the US. I think it's actually, I can be here for 6 months of the year, which is pretty easy to hit. So yeah, I'm sorry that, and you were asking which one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, which events are you looking forward to?
Yeah.
Have you played all the courses before?
So no, this was my first day on the OTB layout. It's hard, but I think it's just the first time seeing it and coming from Vegas where it's just like open. So, and I'm also very tired. So today's round, I was like, oh Lord, I don't know about this. But it is nice because the putting greens are a lot less scary than at Vegas. So that'll be nice. I've played Milo. I love Milo. I actually just found out I got into those events yesterday. I think I was on the wait list until then.
Oh.
So I snuck onto both Portland and Milo. I actually was like, oh, we'll see how OTB goes. If I do really badly, I'll just pull out of the other ones. But now I'm in them, so guess I can't. But Milo should be really fun. I'm really excited for that course. Everyone talks about the magic there. And on my solo road trips or road trips with Brett, like we've stopped there and played, and it's just every time it's just like such a, oh, this is what disc golf is all about, and feels like a fantastic place. So I can't imagine a pro tour event there.
Its reputation is well earned.
Yes. So I think, yeah.
Is there a city you're looking forward to visiting? You mentioned Portland, and I got the chance to visit at a time that I was not disc golfing in my life, but I really loved it as a city. Is there somewhere, whether Portland or elsewhere, that's ahead for you that you're excited to visit?
I don't know, because I haven't actually. Most of the cities on the pro tour events, I don't even know much about them. I don't have a very good U.S. geography, but I haven't really checked out much of Portland. So that will be really cool because I'm going to be there for a while, because those events are back to back. So yeah, I'm excited to check out the city. I'm going to be staying with some friends there. So usually I'm just either camping or passing through. So it'll be nice to spend some time. I spent one evening in Eugene randomly in the spring, but other than that, I haven't really spent time in the Oregon city. So yeah, Portland for sure. I've heard good things.
Yeah, I was only there for a weekend, but my grandfather grew up, or I guess, had his young adulthood in BC and really enjoyed being down in Portland. And it was like always spoken highly of it. So I got out there and I was like, oh, now I understand why he's loved it so much. Not with a whole lot of direct experience myself, but just there for a couple of days. I was like, wow, the coffee's good, the restaurants are good, the people are cool, and I wish I had checked in the disc golf, but maybe next time.
Yeah, I've heard good things about the coffee, so that'll be great.
So Sean mentioned earlier, you're just coming off of the Las Vegas Challenge. Your first round, you had your highest rated round ever. And then in round 3, you blew it out of the water and had a 10-14 rated round for your new career high. Baller round there. So before we get to the final round, and you were, of course, sitting in first place after the first 3 rounds with that great start. Take me through kind of how you were feeling through those 3 rounds. Was the course just like really suited to your game? Was a certain part of your game just like really dialed in and on fire? Take me through how you were feeling through those 3 rounds.
Yeah, so when I practiced the course, I knew it was very scoreable, both courses, but I actually thought I would shoot much lower on Innova. So I was surprised to shoot 6 down. I actually try not to think about scores when I'm practicing because I don't want to set up expectations to birdie on a hole. I just want to think about the shot and not about the score. So I was surprised that my top rated rounds were on the course with more par 3s. When I think back and think about the execution on the rounds, I think that Infinite course was more straightforward in the sense that there's more par 3s and the longer pars had less danger in a sense, or the shots were more sort of made sense to me. So round 1 was clean. I kept my mistakes to single bogeys, and I think there's only 2 or 3 bogeys on the round, and I was getting birdies. I was making a good number of putts, and then there was a tailwind, so it was a different wind than in practice, so I was starting to just down a bit on some holes, and that really worked out for me. And so it was just like I could throw pretty much the same shot and disc on a lot of holes, which was nice for me. And then in about round 2, I was somewhat disappointed. I wanted to get way more holes than I did, but then it ended up being a decent round anyways. The back 9, I did pretty well. And then round 3, I went back to the infinite course, and I just stuck to my game plan and also just adjusted the island hole, adjusted a couple spots here and there, and I laid up a couple putts that were maybe risky. And yeah, I just felt really in control the whole time. I just knew the main part of my game that was really dialed was the throwing, just the 330-foot shot. It just felt really consistent, and so I think just I was in a good headspace. I was relaxed, and I wasn't worried too much about staying in the lead or what Lucky was up to. And generally, I was just sort of trying to throw good shots and make good decisions. So,
and
yeah, the first 3
good
rounds
shots you did. Round 1, the only one to eagle the 735-foot hole 9. Round 2, you eagled hole 8 and 10. 10 was over 700 foot as well. Round 3, again, you were the only one to eagle hole 9.
My favorite hole.
And round 4, yet another eagle on a 700-foot hole. Were the other players like, who is this person? Like where did she come from? And she's only been playing since when? How is she throwing so far?
Yeah, so I think some shots people were like, "Oh, holy!" because when I hit it right, they go pretty far. But I mean, I think a lot of it was actually, I think a lot of players could eagle those holes if they just decided to. But part of it, I think, yeah, I guess I know that even a mediocre throw, I can get over the green on the second throw on that hole 9.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for some people, maybe if they get the nose angle wrong or it fades out early, it would cause a penalty stroke. But for me, don't miss short is a great cue to nail something. It's relaxing to me, and don't miss long is something I don't like to think about very much because I just don't know what to do with my arms at that point when I have to take a little off. I like to feel relaxed and not worried about going too far. So for me, it was an obvious choice to not lay up on hole 9 in front of the green because it was kind of a tricky shot, and I could get a penalty on the layup just as easily as getting a penalty by the basket. So I don't know if it was just me not trusting my layup, but it worked out both times. So
and you had some big putts to get those eagles too, if I recall.
Yeah, the nice thing is that basket is kind of in a bowl, so you can feel good about letting go of your putters. And it's a slightly downhill putt, so it was protected from the wind too. So they weren't gimme putts, but
No.
They felt good. To looking at the basket, I felt good. It always helps.
Mm-hmm.
Helps that it wasn't on a mound. Maybe they'll put that there next year.
Now, I hate to bring up round 4, but round 4, it was a little bit rough, and at the start, you had a great middle section. Lucky had a fantastic round 4. Do you feel like something sort of changed in the game? Was the weather different, or was it sort of was it more of a the mental game? What sort of changed on that course between round 2 and round 4?
So I think unlike the difference round 1 and 3, in round 3 I adjusted mistakes on round 1. I felt actually like my first drive was great. I laid up everything was game plan. Hole 2, I missed a little right on my drive, and then I ran a putt that was low ceiling but felt safe, and then I missed the comebacker. And I think at that point like if I had laid that putt up, that's a stroke right there. I thought about laying it up, and I think my caddy was like, I was going to tell you to lay it up too. And I think at that point, like from then on, I think my decision making was, I learned a lot about the decisions I made. And even though like off the tee, I wasn't feeling as solid, hole 3, I threw a great shot. It just kind of skipped a bit long and was OB. So I had to go back to the drop zone, and Lucky parked her shot. And then hole 4, I was nailing it in practice, and just both rounds, I just couldn't hit the gap with my disc. So I was doing some slightly different things off the tee. Wasn't feeling quite as dialed or trusting of my shots. And then there was just 2 holes where I decided to run a putt. I think I let Lucky was making a lot of really great putts, and she was playing phenomenally well. And I think I let that adjust my game plan, where I was like, okay, I need to start making putts instead of being patient and knowing that there's still a whole back 9 that I tend to do better on than the front line. So I think that mixed with a little bit of OB here and there is what cost me the tournament for sure. I think I ran that putt for birdie on I don't know if you've watched coverage, but there was one putt that I ran and I missed it. So Lucky sunk a birdie putt from just outside. I can't remember which hole. It's the hole before the hole I birdied or eagled. Sorry, it's a par 4, and basically it's the basket's on a mound. There's a bunker, and then there's OB path without a curb, so the disc can just roll straight off the mound. So I ran a putt just outside the circle because I had a bad upshot, and I was frustrated that my upshot was not very close, even though it was like a 200-foot flick, and I left it too wide. I was scared of the bunker, and then I had a long putt and I missed it, and then on the next putt it hit the band and rolled out of bounds. So I went from, instead of just laying up for the par, I went and took a 6 on that hole. And so I think, but at that point we were tied. So I just felt like the need to like get back ahead. And I think in hindsight, it would have just been better to play it safer and just think about, okay, it's fine if we're tied, or it's fine if Lucky gets up 1, instead of risking big consequences with rollaways. If I'm not making every circle 2 putt, why do I run it now, right? Or if I'm not making these putts normally, then why would I start running them now, So I think it was just the need to like match my competitor instead of just playing my own game. So I let the final day kind of make me think I'm going to have to do something special instead of just sitting down and sticking to the routine. I think that sums it up for the most part.
Yeah, and you mentioned sort of being ahead and feeling like you had to sort of catch back up. My other big hobby is poker, and we call that in poker being up stuck. If you're up to start the round, to start the game that you're playing, and then you wind up stuck, as in down money later, or even down money versus where you were before, it's tough not to want to just chase it instead of making the consistent good decisions that you made earlier to keep you ahead. It's tough, whatever you're doing mentally. And I know you're a multi-sport athlete, so I'm sure you can, you can empathize with the fact that it's not unique to disc golf. That, when you feel like you were somewhere and you want to get back there, it can feel mentally a bit jarring.
Yeah.
How'd you like being on coverage? I've had a couple of rounds that I've played recorded with very much lower stakes. Like I've never played a pro tournament, but being on camera, I find for me just sort of affects a little bit in what I'm doing. How did you find it? And we should shout out that people can find the tournament on the Gatekeeper Media YouTube channel, and I look forward to catching up with some of the coverage that I missed. But how did you find that?
I found it totally fine. The camera crew is awesome at being out of the way, and so they kind of blended in the background. We have some events that are covered in Canada that I've been on coverage for, so I'm actually pretty used to the cameras. I think for me, on the final day, what got me a little more was a gallery. We had people watching and clapping and stuff, so it even more kind of egged me on to like try and make big shots, and make big putts. So I think that more than the cameras is what maybe tweaked my sort of psyche, or had me trying to do special things instead of just playing golf. So, but it was really cool to have a gallery and like a nice thing to learn to get used to, right? So, for me, it was more, the actual spectators rather than the camera crews.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you still ended up taking second place, a huge performance for you at a big tournament, a very well attended tournament for just an A tier, which also landed you, I believe, your highest payout of any tournament so far in your career, with a cool $1,150 in winnings from that. How does that sort of affect, I don't want to say like your like mindset of it, but that extra little bit of payday while you're out on the road, how is it a sense of relief coming from that? Does it like motivate you to just keep the baller status going in future tournaments? Just kind of take me through your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I knew I knew this was going to be a good payout event. I didn't expect to play so high at this event, but it was awesome that I did. And it is nice to feel like I'm actually profiting a bit off of the trips and stuff that I'm doing, right? When you tell people I travel and play in tournaments and you win money, they're like, oh yeah, okay, sure. Like, does it probably barely covers the travel expenses? And I guess some months that's the case, or not even, right? But it's nice to, have an event that, takes the pressure off the next few. But I'm not wanting to, at this point at least, play in order to like make money, or like, that's not my, I guess, financial dependence is not on my tournament outcomes. And I think that it's probably good to kind of keep that slightly separate, but it is nice to have that extra change and be like, oh, maybe I can buy some nicer polos or something nicer to wear during my round. You see me uncovered with the giant t-shirts on.
Come on, Innova. Get a shipment of shirts over to her. Come on.
They don't do a ton of merch. I mean, they're a disc golf manufacturer, so they let us pick our merch and then they stamp it. So maybe I'll go and invest in something nice to wear,
stop in at the factory at Rancho Cucamonga.
I stop by all the time.
Oh, good.
Whenever I'm in town, visiting family. I've gone a couple of rounds in with Dave at Martha. They're a lot of fun.
Cool.
So yeah, I try to stop by when I'm there, just because when I want to get discs shipped to Canada, it's just a hassle. We have to pay import fees. So it's easier to just put them in my car and drive them up,
Yeah.
Hide them in boxes.
I was going to say hide them in boxes like they're bottles of liquor or something.
Exactly. Not suspicious.
I love the mindset too. I mean, for me, obviously, as somebody that plays disc golf casually but enjoys it, like even if I'm going out for a club round and my $10 turns into 22, I'm like, you know what? I just got paid $12 to do something that I love. That's really cool. So I love, and I sometimes I'll like have those toonies flying off my hand.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, it must be nice to, just to be able to enjoy yourself and travel and not have that be a factor, but still every once in a while I'll take down a decent payday and go, yeah, it's time for some nice polos, or it's time for some even nicer discs. So that's awesome. Your second place, you were just talking about finishing second place at a major tournament at LVC earns you a qualifier to throw pink at the end of this year. And we were curious, do you think you're going to be able to play it? Are you looking forward to it? If so?
Yeah, so I didn't know that this would be the case. I didn't know I already qualified, and I was thinking about it because I'm playing the BC Open, which is a qualifier, and I was gonna figure out once I got to BC Open whether I'd go to throw pink. So I guess now I can make that decision at this point. I think I'll definitely see if there's some folks that want to travel there with me in the fall. I think it's efficient to play courses that rather than newer courses in events, because you just have that so much added experience from tournament rounds there. So yeah, I think I'll make an effort, but I still have to sit down and look at my plan for the fall.
Speaking of the fall, you are going to Perth, Australia to represent Team Canada at the WIFDIF World Team Disc Golf Championships. I imagine you are pretty excited about that. I've got one of the sponsorship discs. So I believe this is you, or is that Stuart?
Yeah, Stuart's the Moose.
Stuart's the Moose. Stuart McIsaac.
His nickname is Moose, so
that makes sense.
I don't know why I got Beaver. It's another Canadian animal, and we're lost in the outback, and we're trying to find our way to Perth.
It's a great disc. I love this stamp.
It's my first time seeing that. I love that shot.
It's fantastic. I got it on a Rolo, which is super fun disc that I can't imagine you throwing.
I've never thrown one. I felt it.
It would flip back in time with your power. So how are you pretty excited about going to Australia? Have you been there before? How long are you going for? How did you get to be on the team? Let's hear the story.
Yeah, great. So I've never been to Australia. I'm very excited to go. I think I'm going to try and play in some 8 tiers while I'm there on either weekend, on either side of the team event. I qualified. I basically was offered to a spot from Craig, who's the team organizer. I think they went based off of ratings. So he sent out invites to people based off of ratings in Canada. And I think I had a great experience at the Pan Am Games in November, where we sent a team to Georgia, I think, or South Carolina. I'm not sure where we were, but it was a lot of fun. It was match play style, singles, doubles, alt shot, and maybe best shot. And yeah, I got to play with Thomas in the gold medal match, and it was just phenomenal. It was a great time, and it's nice to play disc golf in a different format where you're like running it, you're just trying to throw it in because the other team is up under the basket, or no, you're going to lay up this 25-footer because they're still throwing their fourth shot. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot more strategy centered around like playing against an opponent rather than trying to beat the course. So it's a fun format to play in, and it's a different kind of pressure, if that makes sense. So it's the pressure of like not letting your doubles partner down, but then some shots are just like the decision is already made. It's just like you have to execute the shot, right? So yeah, I'm excited.
So with you being out prepping for OTB, coming off of Vegas and a couple other big tournaments coming up, how are you feeling about your overall game right now? What's feeling super locked in? What are you working on the side? And then also from this whole experience, this trip that you're on right now, what are some of the things that you're going to take away from the experience that might be good advice for yourself or our listeners when they are in pressure situations like you were in final round of Vegas?
Yeah, so I think I'll lead with that. I think what I learned is you got to stick to your game plan and not let the players around you kind of affect the shots you're taking. And just because they're running stuff from all over the place doesn't mean that you necessarily should, unless you actually feel like you've been making them and you've shown yourself. And don't be afraid to play safe when you need to, and when you decide to go for something, you can fully commit to it. So I think yeah, staying in your own game is something I really learned, especially from that final round this weekend. And my game in general, I think my throwing has felt really good, except for the final day of Vegas. My backhand throwing, my forehand was like hit or miss during the event. And I think my circle one putting was good for myself, obviously something I need to work on. And I think one of the biggest things I need to fix up on my game is my backhand up shots. I think they get left a few strokes out there on the course where it's frustrating to, leave yourself with a 25-footer after throwing a 140-foot wide open up shot. So it's not the most fun thing to practice, but it's definitely something that I need to work on. And whether that's by playing catch or just I was thinking maybe while I'm playing some courses like halfway up the fairway, I'll just throw an approach no matter where I'm at. Just throw an approach from halfway up to the basket, just randomly, and just to practice more. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
All makes sense to me. And you're on Team Innova this year, so congratulations. Did you throw a lot of Innova before you joined the team? Have you started to add a little bit more now? I assume the answer is yes. And what are you liking? What are you enjoying throwing?
Yeah, so it's been awesome. The discs are obviously really great. I was already very familiar with some discs like the Eagle and the Destroyer, and I think there was a couple more like the Shrike and the Orc and the Starfire. So I threw a lot of drivers. I was less familiar with the slower speed discs, but I really enjoyed the J, the Toro, and the Cayman. Those are some of my stable theme here. But I also actually started bagging the Eagle is my favorite disc of all time. But the Leopard is a disc I just threw back in the bag kind of as a joke, because that was the DX Leopard was the first disc I ever learned to throw. So now I've got a Star Leopard in the bag, and it's just really fun to put it on big lines, and it just holds that line. And I think it's actually going to be really handy. I'm playing Shelton Springs, which is a wooded course up in Washington, in a couple weeks, so it's going to be really handy for that, just to set it straight. And it's actually pretty stable for a Leopard, so I can throw it with some juice. But yeah, those are, and then I'm putting with the AVR X's or the JKs, and I'm throwing an AVR 3 as a putter. So
yeah, my first roller disc was a Leopard. I picked up 150, might even been like a high like 140 gram DX Leopard, and just learned rollers by just cranking on it. So I love to hear that you started your journey there and you're back there.
I was a yellow DX Leopard.
Incredible. Mine also was yellow DX Leopard. I think it's still in the bin directly to my right here. Who's to say? I actually had a more local question. So I spend a decent amount of time out in BC, not as much as I used to, but my dad actually grew up in Campbell River. And that's where the first round of disc golf that I ever played was at Cooper's Hawk out in Campbell River, with some cousins that I think were more interested in, older cousins, more interested in drinking beer and hanging out than they were in throwing discs around. But as like a 14 or 15-year-old, I was like, this disc golf thing seemed kind of fun. Bought some discs, they went in a box in my basement. I didn't touch them for a decade and then picked it back up during COVID. But for me, playing disc golf on Vancouver Island is a special place in my heart. So I was curious, if you ever get out, I know Victoria is not the closest, but to Campbell River, if you've played any rounds out there, and what your experience on the island playing disc golf has been like.
Yeah, so the island has its own special feel, as you said. A lot of tonal disc golf in the woods, right? And a lot of courses that people have just set up on properties. We don't have like big official championship level courses, but we have courses, like Cooper's Hawk. We have, I don't know how many you've played, but there's also some new courses out in Comox, Smith Lake Farm. Clea, she has a giant property where she's setting up a course, and she's got a lot of acres, and you can actually go there, camp, or stay at the farm and play disc golf. And it's beautiful. There's a lake in the farm, you can swim, and there's a sauna. So it's a really great experience, and the community there's awesome. I know there's some other new courses going in nearby, so I think they're really hoping to have some more disc golf events out there. And the island really needs more courses like that. So it's awesome to see them putting in. Then IMO Mount Doom is also, they just put in new tee pads and they're putting in baskets. So we're hosting club championships there this summer, I think. So we're getting more courses, which is awesome. And although I love the woodsy feel where you're just like climbing through the forest and throwing your disc like through really narrow fairways, it's cool to see that we're starting to get some courses that you can actually run tournaments on.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's been a few years. I think it's actually been sadly since pre-COVID, since I've been out to BC. We used to get out about once a year. So I used to fly into either Comox or Nanaimo. So now I'm going to make sure I pack a couple of discs in my carry-on for next time.
Yeah, my favorite course to play is actually Salt Spring, like nearby is Salt Spring Island. So just like it's pretty close to Victoria. You just take the ferry, and they have a golf course there, and a great longer course, because most of the courses on the island aren't very long. So that's kind of a bomber course compared to the others. So yeah.
Before, we don't want to take up too much more of your time. We know you're getting ready for the OTB Open this weekend. We're definitely going to be watching for you on coverage. Any shout outs you want to give, sponsors or otherwise? The floor is yours.
Yeah. Geez. Well, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Innova and Emerald City Discs, who's a shop in Seattle. They sell some discs. Kirby's an awesome guy. He was supposed to play LVC, but unfortunately I think he had a small injury, so he couldn't come down to play. But he's going to watch out for his name. He's going to be playing in some events this year. And then obviously my disc golf family back home. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Jonathan Henderson, my brother-in-law, who came up to Vegas to caddy me, as well as Ted Mullins and Graham Garlick, who were fellow Canadians that were playing in the Vegas Challenge in MP60, but they would caddy for me Thursday and Friday. So you'll see them on coverage. They came and caddied me and then played their own rounds, which was just phenomenal. And then Jonathan drove up from LA to caddy me, which was really special. He caddied my 10-14 rated round. So at first we were like, dang, John, you're really helping me in my game. And then on Sunday, obviously I didn't do so great, but that was more me. But anyways, huge shout out to those people for really being supportive over the weekend. And then everyone that's been sending me messages, and congrats for a really awesome time.
Amazing.
Yeah, so, yeah.
At the TCO last year, when I ran into you spectating on the MPO final round, and I mentioned to you that I thought you threw like Ella Hansen wishes she could throw, and I still think that that you and Ella have a very similar skill set, and I know you're both, I think, playing the tournament this weekend. I think it would be amazing to have you both on the same card, because I want to see that head-to-head challenge. But until then, thank you so very much for taking time out of your very busy pre-tournament schedule to talk with us here on Missed Mando. I know we all really appreciate your time, and we're going to be rooting for you this weekend and throughout the West Coast swing.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're
awesome chatting with you guys.
You're very welcome.
And welcome back to Missed Mando. Thank you once again so much to Sofia for coming on to join us. Great interview with her. Good luck this weekend at OTB and at all those West Coast events that we were talking about with her. We also, to our listeners, may have noticed a fourth face in that interview that we didn't get to intro in any sort of way, but we are so proud to welcome back in our long-lost third co-host, Mr. Galen Naidu-Harris.
What's that? Up here.
We're totally getting hit with a copyright takedown notice on that.
Yeah. You know, that's allowed on YouTube.
So how is it having the quality of your podcast degrade by such a significant margin while I was away? Did you guys survive?
It was adequate.
I'd say we thrived.
I mean, truly, it was.
I missed you guys. How you doing?
Absolutely, our best episodes ever were without you. And
Facts.
I mean, you know, that's not what the listeners have been telling me, Sean. My DMs have been
We have
lit
a
up
listener.
day after day.
Sweet,
Galen,
we have
where
a
are
listener.
you? So hard listening to Robbie and Sean. They're so boring. When are you coming back? And I just felt like I had to give the people what they wanted. So here I am. It's tough for me hanging out with you two for an evening, but for the listeners, I'll make it happen.
Yeah, you're not the first to say that.
The man of the people you are, Galen.
Good to see you, boys. It's good to be back.
Great to have you back. And let's jump right into it with some Disc Golf Pro Tour recaps, starting off with the Dynamic Discs Open. This was formerly known as the Glass Blown Open, and it's been a staple on the disc golf calendar for years now. At its peak, this event would see 1,500 plus disc golfers swarm to Emporia, Kansas, with a week's worth of flex start events, a bunch of vendor villages leading up to the event, and the amateur side of the tournament would always end a day early so that everyone could go out and watch the pros play the final round. So you would always have this massive gallery for the pros on the final day, which was always amazing. Now, of course, they've split up the weekends, so pro and AMs events are held on 2 separate weekends. And this year, the pro weekend hosted a total of 150 players. Over in FPO, Haley King found herself in a playoff at this event for the second straight year, but this time came out in second, with Missy Gannon picking up her first Pro Tour win of the season to go along with her major win from earlier in the year. Emily Weatherman rounded out the podium in third place there. Over in MPO, Calvin Heimberg wins by 3 strokes over Gannon Burr, with Gavin Rathbun rounding out the podium in third place. Awesome to see Gavin at the top of some leaderboards to start this year. I believe last year he missed a bunch due to injury, so great to see him back here. This is Calvin's 10th career Elite Series win and his first in 371 days. In the time since Calvin's last win, he had a whopping 16 top 5 finishes and only 4 finishes outside of the top 5, with only 2 of those coming out of the top 10. Just insane consistency, but wasn't able to get the win. Finally gets it done. And with that win, Calvin now moves into solo 8th in the all-time MPO Elite Series in major wins category, trailing only Nate Doss, Eagle McMahon, Barry Schultz, Dave Feldberg, Ken Climo, Ricky Wysocki, and of course, Paul McBeth. Pretty solid list of names there to be associated with. But let's send it over to you, Shawnee G, and let's hear some stats and your breakdown for this event.
Calvin had a massive lead in strokes gained tee to green over Gannon, more than a 7-stroke lead. Gannon got 3 of those strokes back on the putting green, but it was still a big net deficit. Calvin, by his standards, was actually relatively weak in the putting performance, and this was evident in his sort of stats. He wasn't in the top 10 of any of the putting statistics. But one guy who was had an amazing statistic, I want to give a shout out to Levi Hancock. He finished 36th, very respectable. But his C2X putting was 69%. He hit 11 of 16. Like, it wasn't like he had a couple. He had 16 circle 2 putts, and he hit 11 of them. That is massive. It was super cool. Yeah, super cool. Huge. And it was technically, it wasn't first place in C2X. There was some guy who had like 7 attempts and he got 5 of them or whatever, but 16 and making 11. That's amazing. Over in FPO, Missy led in not a single category, and she was only actually in the top 3 in a few of them. Haley King led in scramble. She led in C1X in regulation and strokes gained tee to green, which helped a lot because she lost more than 3 strokes putting. She was 9th worst in the field when it came to putting, which not really what you expect from Haley King. No. This was very much the Missy and Haley show, but huge shout out to Emily Weatherman. She was tied for first with King and Gannon, and just came up one stroke short. We're going to talk about why in a sec, but she had an absolutely career weekend, and easily could have been a third player in the eventual playoff that Missy took down.
Yeah, huge weekend for Emily, like you mentioned, and let's just jump right into that. So you had mentioned coming up super close, and for those that haven't been able to see it, I'm sure you can go out and find the video somewhere. Maybe Sean, I don't know if in the editing side of things you can superimpose a little screenshot of what we're talking about over top. But on hole 18, Emily was on the chase card, and her tee shot comes out of her hand and starts to skip over towards the left OB line to get the crossed signal from the spotter that it's too close to call. And when the card makes it up there, it is gotta be the closest disc in and out I've ever seen. Now, I will say we only have one angle basically, or I've basically only seen one angle from the camera. And it sounds like, Terry Miller on the live broadcast was able to go over there and see it. He thought it was out of bounds. So, we don't have all the information if you're not, there to actually stand there and look at it. But from the angle that we got on that camera, it was so microscopically close that, to me, in my opinion, it should have been given benefit of the doubt to the player. If it's that close where you're having that much of a debate about it, to me, that should be benefit of the doubt to the player. Now, like I said, though, it could have been from the angles of the players standing over. It could have been more obvious, and that's why it wasn't given to her. But based on the information that I have, and from what I can see based on that looked way too close to call. Should have been benefit of the doubt. And that one stroke, she would go on to bogey the hole with that extra penalty stroke. And that was the one stroke that kept her out of a three-way playoff with Haley King and Missy Gannon for the win. Still third place finish. Huge event for Emily. I honestly had never heard her name before this event. So huge performance for her. But Sean, let's send it over to you for some of your thoughts on that.
There's no such thing as benefit goes to the player when
it's in the rule book.
when the entire rest of the card agrees.
Yeah.
Benefit to the player only happens when there's a split decision, in which case the call that is most beneficial to the player is the one that stands. In this case, that wasn't the case. All three of the other players on her card said, it's out. That's it. That's the call. It really sucks for her. I feel real bad. She still thinks that it was in, that there was, I heard her on I think Smashbox. And she's like, with Terry, who said it was out. She's like, there was like a blade of grass. Like there's like one half of a blade, like a micron that was like on the other side of the disc. She still thinks it was in. Nobody else did. And that's the way it goes. That's the actual rule, not some airy-fairy, we're just going to make it up and like, oh, it's really close, so you should get it. No, too bad. Take up debating lessons and argue with your card and convince one person that it's close enough. Boom, you're in.
Yeah, and like I said, Terry Miller on the broadcast had also said that was OB from his vantage point. I didn't hear the interview, but like you just mentioned, he doubled down on that on Smashbox and an interview with her. So I lean towards you in that, Sean, and just the fact that like just our angle wasn't good enough to see exactly what the players were seeing, and that's just kind of what I think happened. But hopefully we can post up a little screenshot of the still of it on the line, because it is so dang close from the view that we get as spectators from the camera. Too close to call. Galen, you catch any of this any of this
I
scenario?
haven't seen the coverage, but I want to be clear that I will take any opportunity that I can to disagree with Sean's. I'm with you, Robbie. The disc was in bounds, benefit to the player. Sean's argument is absolute bullshit. Yeah.
Sean doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Never.
That's what I always say.
I am
No.
I am absolutely a
I'm
rules
not,
nerd, and 100% correct.
Unfortunately,
We know you're a rules nerd.
Yes.
Enough time to pay attention to disc golf lately. So, as somebody that is argumentative by nature and that also likes to argue professionally, I wish that I had looked at the photos and seen the coverage so that I could come back. I got nothing. I haven't seen it. So I'll leave it up to you two. And the butting of heads you just did, it sounds like Sean won, as sad as that makes me. So I guess we're saying it's
You got some homework to do before next episode now. We'll send you the link.
I got time for homework. Homework now, but
Wow.
I'll make sure that I do.
Hamwork sounds fun. Also some stuff to discuss about. We'll stay on the FPO side and a rule change that came into effect in the off season. We got to see in effect for the first time. A TD can now elect to have a sudden death or an aggregate playoff where you play multiple holes and take a total score from it. We got to see it for the first time ever on the Pro Tour at this event. Missy Gannon and Haley King playing holes 16, 17, and 18 for a total score playoff. Sean, I'll send it to you first. What were your thoughts on the aggregate playoff format being shown for the first time here?
Generally speaking, I like it. I like that it's simply not sudden death. That there can be a little more strategy involved, and it's not just sort of one and done. I know Steve Dodge out at Maple Hill has been wanting to do an aggregate playoff arrangement at the MVP Open for a while now, and I'm guarantee he's gonna put one in this year. But it does slow things down because they have to for the MPO side. Because when they're playing on the same course, they have to basically jump in the middle of the round for some MPO players. And, it's going to take half an hour. It's going to take 45 minutes. It's going to take an hour to resolve. Who knows how long it'll take to resolve. And that's not ideal for the overall pace of play. And I know that that's one of the reasons why, who was it who dropped out? Cole Redolin. Yeah. Why he bitched out and dropped out of the tournament because there was like a delay. Absolutely unsportsmanlike, and he should be penalized for that. But it's on the whole, I like it, and I hope that they expand the use of it. But it's not without its impact to the rest of the players on that same course on the same day.
Agreed. This is also, I think, kind of the perfect tournament for the aggregate playoff, because it gave us in the sudden death format, this course gave us one of the most uneventful finishes to a world championship playoff ever with Paul McBeth and who did he go to the playoff with? Gossage? Was it Darren Gossage? It was when it was at this course only a couple of years ago, and McBeth hit a huge putt late to tie it up. I'm blanking on who he was against. For some reason in my head, I'm thinking Aaron Gossage, but there's a part of me that's also thinking it wasn't. So apologies if it wasn't. But whoever McBeth was against went OB off the tee shot on hole 16. McBeth's inbounds. You already know it's over. With barring a throw in from the drop zone, McBeth would have just been able to lay up and tap in for the par, get the win. Pretty uneventful finish. And this aggregate makes that a lot better. Now, I'll also say that sudden death wouldn't have mattered because Haley and Missy actually both birdied hole 16 in the playoff. So it would have gone to another hole anyways, with Missy hitting a sick I don't know if it was quite C2. I can't remember, but it was deep and just hung on the left side. Pretty sweet putt. And Haley was a little closer. But the downside was that the final hole kind of felt like a foregone conclusion, just walk in the park with on the second hole of the playoff, Missy taking Missy taking birdie and Haley taking a bogey. Missy had a two-stroke lead going into that final playoff hole. It felt like a foregone conclusion, and I think Haley kind of felt that way and let her emotions get the better of her. I think with her foot fault call, which really, I mean, the disc did kind of move, but it was after the disc had left Missy's hand. Super bang bang play, and the tournament was over at that point, anyways. But I mean, from my perspective, I was also thinking I couldn't imagine being Haley in that situation, thinking, all right, this is over now. I'm not going to be able to win this, but I still have to play this final extra hole. Would be a little bit frustrating, but all in all, I do like it in I wouldn't like it at every tournament, that's for sure, but every once in a while, an aggregate playoff, I do like the change, and it definitely could have some electric moments for a playoff, being able to have that. So we'll see how it goes in some future events, but I thought it was a pretty good first taste of it here at this event.
Well, and for me, it's not better or worse. It's just different. I think there are, you look at other sports, there are different ways to do overtime. I'm a hockey fan. If you get to overtime in the playoffs, it is sudden death. Next goal wins. I think those of us that played street hockey or pickup on a pond when we grew up, that was how it was. Whenever you got to that point where mom was calling for dinner, next goal in the net, that was it. When you look at basketball, that is not how overtime works. You're tied up at the end of regulation, and you have a set duration you continue to play, and whatever happens at the end of that is what dictates the winner. And so I don't think it's that one is better than the other for me, but they're testing different aspects of a player's skill and psyche, and so I love that they're both applicable to PGA events now. I think there's a different tenor to being in a sudden death playoff where it's shot for shot, hole for hole, to when you're playing 3 at a time or whatever number at a time. If you look at different sports, whatever number of minutes, whatever. So I love that both are here. I look forward to future spirited debates about which is better than the other. But for now, I'm enjoying both's presence here, and I like that we got our first taste this weekend.
Nice to see some innovation in the sport.
Yep,
let's try out some things.
100%.
I certainly agree there. Moving on to our picks recap from the event. Galen, of course, you weren't here for our picks, but we'll get you on the picks going forward. Sean, you had Anthony Barella and Holland Hanley. AB finished in a tie for 14th. Holland Hanley finished tied for 4th. And I had Gannon Burr and Missy Gannon. Gannon Burr, that almost threw me off. Gannon Burr finished in 2nd. Missy Gannon finished in 1st. And yeah, I see you, Galen. We're not gonna
I don't know. Sorry, I'm looking at.
We're not going to try and believe that those picks were in there before.
I'm looking at the show notes.
No video
and
evidence.
I see that Galen had Calvin and Missy. I don't know where that came from, but I'm looking at the notes that we all share before episodes, and clearly I had both the winners chosen. So I don't know why you're trying to silence me. It seems rude.
I don't know where it came from either. Some sort of witchcraft.
Yeah.
Moving on to
get me back in. Nice picks, Robbie. Well done.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. I mean, Holland T4. I mean, I even said I'm pretty sure I said before because I always let you make perks. I always let you make the picks first for some reason. So you had Holland Hanley. That's who I would have picked. And I had to switch off to Missy Gannon. So thanks, Sean. Thanks for the helping hand there. Yeah. Moving on now to the Copenhagen Open. So this was the first of 5 DGPT elite events in Europe for this season, of course, being hosted in Copenhagen, Denmark. Most of the top touring pros still in the US. So this is a great opportunity for some European players to get some time in the spotlight. And in FPO, a name everybody's going to be familiar with this season, Evelina Salonen mounts a massive comeback, erasing a 9-stroke deficit in the last 13 holes, including a huge C2 eagle putt to force a playoff against defending champion Kaidi Alsalu, where she would go, where she would again hit another huge C2 putt for the win on the second playoff hole. Silva Saarinen rounds out the podium in 3rd place. Coming into this season, Evelina only had 1 major and 2 Elite Series wins, and now this season she has 1 major and 2 Elite Series wins, doubling up her career totals in just the first, couple months of the season here. And I would say that has her as the early front runner for FPO Player of the Year so far. Over on the MPOs.
So I just got to interject quickly. If you had told me that at a major tournament, you're going to have a player hit a massive C2 putt to force a playoff, another massive C2 putt to take the win down, right. I don't know where Evelina would have been on the list, but it would have been pretty close to the bottom. So it has been fantastic to have seen the discourse around her talking for quite some time about how good she is at everything else. How if she just cleaned up her gosh darn putting, how good would she be? To see her now doing that this year and forcing some massive results has been incredible. So we love to see it. Way to go, Evelina.
Snappers too. Like they were some big putts. So yeah, kudos to Evelina. I mean, someone when she took down the chess.com invitational earlier in the year, I saw someone had taken the meme from Happy Gilmore where it's Happy learned how to putt. And it was Evelina Salonen's face over Happy, and then the rest of the FPO field over Shooter McGavin. And really that's how it is. When Evelina can putt, she is
scary,
the best in the world, in my opinion. But over on the MPO side, Jesse Nieminen gets his first career Pro Tour win. He's the 2nd player from Finland to win on tour this season. Jettu Tiominen and Nicholas Antala finished tied for 2nd. This is the first time Jesse has won a tournament outside of his native Finland. He's been out in the tour all year so far in the States, and takes this one down in Denmark. Sean, let's throw it over to you for some of your thoughts on this tournament.
So we already talked about how Evelina did. She was an absolute monster in Copenhagen. She led the field in parked, C1 in reg, C2 in reg, longest throw in, shots gained tee to green, and shots gained in C2. And she was in the top 5 in a few more statistics. Her last round, a bit of a roller coaster. After triple bogeying the first hole and taking another bogey on 5, she won on an absolute tear, getting 6 more birdies and then capping off the round with the only eagle of the entire tournament, of the insane 1,073-foot par 6 final hole to force a playoff. It was absolutely clutch, and as we mentioned, did it with a huge circle 2 putt to do it. Absolutely amazing. Happy definitely has learned how to putt. On MPO, I want to give a shout out to veteran Paul Ulibarri. Uli was leading after round 1, tied for 2nd after round 2, and ended up finishing tied for 4th. He was in great shape to take it down, but Nieminen just held on to it and took it down by 2. But what a great finish by the veteran. Absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, it's awesome to see Yuli out there in Europe. And speaking of being out in Europe, the European crowds were awesome to see, especially in a time where so far this year the crowds have been a little bit lackluster on a lot of the Pro Tour stops so far. Ticket sales have been down. Yeah, definitely. Which is, I mean, as I mentioned in the DDO breakdown, that used to be just the biggest in terms of like amount of people in one location. That was the biggest disc golf event of the year, every single year, with AMs and pros on the same weekend. Hopefully they go back to that at some point, especially with Jeremy Rusko buying the facility. It's now the Emporia Community Club instead of the Country Club. They're going to put in like hotels, pickleball courts, a whole bunch of other things for tourism purposes. Hopefully that means that they go back to it being on the same weekend. But yeah, the crowds in Europe were awesome to see. This was an event where general admission tickets were free. So you could go online and get a free ticket to enter the event. I believe I heard in a podcast interview before the event that they had something like 1,200 or over 1,000 of those free tickets that had been quote unquote
big
sold.
numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even with it being free and, not generating revenue, just having people on the course, maybe generating revenue by them shopping at like a pro shop or food vendor, whatever they had on site. So it just got me excited for watching more European disc golf this year. Like I mentioned, this is the first of 5 Elite Series events that are going to be in Europe. There's also a bunch of Silver Series events. And of course, the European Open major tournament a little bit later. So I am just fired up to watch some European disc golf this year and see how crazy the crowds get, especially once the fields get a little deeper and some of the, the really top tier players are either over here in Europe or back in the field, with Kristen being back in Europe right now, but taking some time off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, and I love the idea of just getting players out with a free general admission ticket. I mean, it's like the old axiom for grocery stores. They lose money on like butter, milk, eggs, but you have to buy butter, milk, and eggs pretty regularly. So they put them in the furthest corner away from the front door and make you walk through all the other aisles and buy discs,
everything else.
I fit shirts, and whatever the equivalent is at a grocery store of spending too much money on disc golf paraphernalia. So I love it. I mean, it's great for the sport to get more people involved and interested. I mean, how easy is it if you have time on like a Sunday, if a friend of yours that loves disc golf goes, hey, do you want to go hang out and like drink a beer and watch disc golf? Just say yes if it's free versus if it's 40, 50, whatever US dollars. So I love getting people out, and there's not a necessary implication that you lose money either. So love it, love it, love it.
And amazing what happens when you put a tournament in a major metropolitan area, with Copenhagen being the largest city in Denmark. I believe it's like 2.5 million people in the general metro area. So you put a tournament in a big area, people are going to come out, instead of putting it in the middle of nowhere, Emporia, Kansas, where no one can get to. Sorry, DDO, for picking
or
on you,
wants
but yeah, I mean, really. So, hopefully we see more of that here in the States, but huge over in Europe. So super awesome to see. I see, Shawnee G, you had something in the show notes that you wanted to talk a little bit more about as well.
What did you think about a par 6 for the FPO? 1,073 foot. There was OB, like you had to cross like after your first shot. It was a lot of uphill. Does it make sense, or just like put another tee pad in?
So as I mentioned, I haven't been able to watch as much coverage as I would like to lately, which has been none. So I'm not
great for a disc golf podcast.
Hole. Fucking A, right. I'm not aware of the specific hole or the distance or the context, but I have to say, I do like making adjustments, even if they're ones that aren't intuitive, based on the performance of the field relative to the course. So I don't know if this is the case here, as I said, because I haven't seen it. But I was talking to a good friend of mine about playing at Dad's in Muskoka because we were playing there this weekend. One of the first rounds I played in the last 6 weeks. And the second hole of the course had always been a par 3. It wasn't a crazy mash. It was like a 400 and some odd foot hole with a bit of a narrow gap off the tee. It's been a 3 forever. But over the past 2 years, they've tracked stats of every player through UDisc and whenever they've had events through PDGA. And it was averaging well over a 5. And they said, you know what? We really like this hole. We don't want to change it, but we have to adjust the par to match the players that are playing it. We're going to make it a 4 and have it be a tough 4, but still not have it be players are taking 2 strokes over par on average. I don't know if this is the case, but if it's the case that a 173-foot hole as call it a par 5 would be a hole where you're seeing a lot of 6s and 7s and challenges for a field of really talented players. And they went, you know what, we're going to make it a slightly more attackable par number, but keep the hole as challenging as it was before, or at least to keep a really challenging hole on the course if it wasn't a new hole. I don't dislike that logic of having holes be as hard as holes are and having the pars not necessarily match on in a one-to-one way. Anyway, just so, like I said, very abstract thoughts. I'm curious what you guys feel having actually seen it up close and personal.
Well, what's interesting is how well balanced this hole turned out to be. So on the final round, in addition to Evelina's eagle, the sole eagle of the tournament, there were 10 birdies, 9 pars, 8 bogeys, and 4 double bogeys or more. There was some 10s and stuff. That's a really well balanced hole. Like 30%.
I don't hate
30%.
that. It feels like a hole that's pretty well adjusted as far as pars and distance and challenge the field that was playing it.
Like it's unusual for it to be a 6,
For sure.
but 6 seems to be the appropriate par for that hole for the FPO division. It seems reasonable, and it's nice that it's not just like the older / fairly recent thing where the MPO and the FPO would be playing the same layout, the same pars, and the FPO division would be winning with like a plus 35 or something like that. Like that's kind of crap.
Doesn't make sense.
We see that in Europe a bunch too.
Yeah. So the par 6, it was weird, but it was correct.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, Sean. Like, why not try some things?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And at first when I saw this, I definitely was super skeptical about it and didn't really like it. Just, I don't know, par 6, just, it feels super weird. And exactly. And I'm the type of person that like, I like to embrace the kind of gimmicky, goofy side of disc golf compared to traditional golf. I don't want us to become a super button-up sport like traditional golf, where everything is so prim and proper. I like the kind of the personality that comes out in disc golf, but par 6 kind of just still felt off to me. But after it's been played, I don't really have anything bad to say about it at all. It was, like you said, it was very well balanced. I also like having a hole as a hole 18 where there is a big opportunity for scoring separation.
Huge score separation.
And opportunity for an eagle, so to gain multiple strokes. Because we actually saw I have blanked on her name, Kaidi. She birdied the final hole as well. She birdied it, but Evelina with the eagle was still able to get that stroke, force
that
the playoff.
So good.
And then of course take it down. So yeah,
that's great disc golf.
Overall have nothing bad to say about that hole whatsoever.
No, and it might seem objectively weird, but there's another saying that I love, which is, if it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid. It might seem stupid, it might seem odd, but it seems like it works, and I like that.
That's like the motto for my life.
Me too, buddy.
Yeah, just cruising through. But moving on to our picks from our last episode, Sean, you did much better in this event by picking just
the obvious,
just going as chalk can get. You took Nicholas Antala, who finished and tied for second, and you picked Evelina Salonen, who finished in first. I went a little off the board because, once again, I let you pick first all the time. And I took Lauri Lehtinen. He finished in a tie for seventh. And I also took Silva Saarinen, who finished in third. So pretty good result there for Silva. And she is so dominant in Europe. It's crazy. So I wouldn't be surprised to see her name on some podiums continuing as we go across the European swing here. But let's look a little bit more forward and some events coming up, and let's get into some of our previews with the OTB Open Preview. Galen, let's send it on over to you, my friend.
Yeah, man. And we have the OTB Open returning for its fourth year on the GGPT. Once again at Swenson Park in Stockton, California. And this course is long, coming in 11,564 feet for MPO, 9,309 for FPO. And last year we saw Paige Pierce winning her third straight OTB with Owen Scoggins in second and Emily Beach in third on the FPO side. And MPO, we saw Emerson Keith getting a much-deserved win, his first career DGPT win, with Gannon Burr in second, and Isaac Robinson, Cole Redolin, and Aaron Gossage all tied in third. That was 2023. Now we're looking at 2024. So we'll throw over to Sean first, and then Robbie. What are you looking forward to, and do you have some picks for us?
I would love to see Paige take this down again. 4 in a row would be amazing. I don't know that she's gonna, but it would be pretty cool if she did. My pick for FPO is Ella Hansen. Even though she hasn't had a particularly great year, I think the course length definitely favors her distance, and she's taken a few events off. She's been resting back in Seattle. And I think she's going to come back fresh, and hopefully she'll take it down, and hopefully Sofia will be right there battling her for the title. Over in MPO, I'm going with Ricky. He's due, and Calvin was due, and he got his win last week. So I'm gonna say Ricky Wysocki takes it down this week. His Bitcoin investment has been doing great this week, and he's right in the right mood. I think he's gonna take it down.
I like it. Robbie, where's your head at?
I do like those picks. That's another FPO steal from Shawnee G, right out from me on another event. Ella, I believe, I think it was 2 years ago. She was right in the hunt. I think finished second. I believe, at least. Maybe I'm mistaken. But Ella is a great pick out here. Definitely where I would have leaned. So for myself, I'm going to go with. I don't know. I was going to say dynamic duo. I don't know why I was going to call him a dynamic duo, but see him on the road a lot together. She is still looking for her first Pro Tour win, even though she took down a kind of major, technically an A tier last year. And I'm going to go once again with Holland Hanley. I have picked Holland a few times this season, and she's finally going to get it done for me. I've got faith. Holland, come on, it's your time to shine. Go get that win. It would be cool to see Paige win 4 in a row, though. I agree with you, Sean, there. That would be cool to see. And over on the MPO side, I am going to go with Gannon Burr. He finished second last year as as mentioned, is just I mean, he finished second. He also had I was looking, I don't have it up in front of me now, but I was looking at the round scores from last year. He had a section in the final round where he ripped off like 10 straight birdies. Just went on an insane late round push. Unfortunately bogeyed the last hole to end that comeback push, but still finished in second. I think he's going to be able to put it together here. Calvin Heimberg also in the field, Ricky Eagle McMahon, Matty O, AB, lots of big names there. I'm going to go with Gannon Burr. Galen, what are you thinking?
I mean, I feel like you guys are galaxy braining this a little bit. I mean, you know, I don't like to think that I'm the sharpest tool in the shed, but if I look at a field of disc golfers, I like to think, generally speaking, the ones that are the highest rated and have the, the biggest number coming in probably have a pretty good chance at winning. So I actually loved the Gannon Burr pick. That was stolen out from under me. But I'm noticing, looking at who's registered on the MPO and FPO sides, that the top rated players for both have not been chosen by either of you. I don't know if you're just trying to be cool or different, or if you're just bad at choosing who's going to win. Whatever the case may be, I'm going to be very unoriginal and very straightforward and say it's ridiculous that Calvin Heimberg and Ondoggin Scoggins have not been chosen. Those are my two picks. I'll take the two best players on the board, please and thank you, with choices with choices 5 and 6 even. And if either of those two win, you ought to be embarrassed for leaving them on the table.
I mean, Owen Scoggins on a 9,000 foot course. If she hadn't done so well last year, I would say that is an utterly ridiculous pick. But I mean, unless they've added 8,000 feet to this course between last year and this year, I can't argue with it. It's a solid pick. And Calvin, you can never go wrong picking Calvin. Like, I mean, come on. Yeah.
It's like our fantasy choices. I was shocked that I got both Calvin and Kristen, and they performed relatively well. Maybe we'll get there later. Maybe we'll save that for another week. I'm not sure.
Let's do it next week.
I feel the same way right now. Like, how the hell are Calvin and Owen unchosen so far? So I will choose those people. And I'm happy to be back with you two who are choosing, the best of the rest. It must be nice for you.
One person there's no way I'm picking is Nicholas Antala. He played Copenhagen last weekend, and he's playing OTB in California this weekend ahead of doing the West Coast swing. Boy's got to be tired. That's a hell of a commute. And
Copenhagen and Stockton, California, they're not exactly close, are they?
No, not so much. It was like
could,
9-10 hours, something like that. Just time difference, maybe more. I don't know.
And you can't just hop on a Vespa and do that in a weekend?
It's a fast Vespa. So the boy's got to be tired. So I'm definitely not picking him, but watch him come out and just absolutely smoke the field and take it down. Sleep depression is his secret weapon.
Now he will.
Yeah, now he definitely will. Moving on a little bit to some other kind of topics in the disc golf world. Shawnee G, I know that there was some stuff that you wanted to talk about there.
So we record this on Tuesdays, and today is ratings day. And the big news that everybody's been waiting for.
I was up 1 point to 869. I know we've all been waiting for a while for me to renew my membership. Nobody knew where I was sitting. It's been a couple of months here in 2024. So thank you, Sean, for kicking me right off the hop. Yeah, way up from 868 to 869. I'm so proud.
Huge.
All my sponsors, my disc golf co-hosts. And thanks for just giving me this platform to talk about this for a minute. But if there's anything else you wanted to touch on, we can go to that now, I guess.
Yeah, my 835 to 837.
Oh man, you doubled up my increase in points. Good Lord.
Exactly.
Oh, embarrassing.
But there was a minor bit of other news in the Pro Tour side of things with
Kristen. 1 point increase.
Yes, another one, or probably like half a point increase.
Yeah.
Kristen Tattar, first ever 1,000 rated FPO player. absolute milestone that probably is not going to be matched again for a very long time. It's, what can you say? Like, she's going to make so much money on disc sales from this achievement. It's going to be, I'm buying one 100%. It's really, really amazing. Just what an accomplishment. So cool to see. What do you guys think?
I'm blown away, man. I'm so impressed. It feels like a moment that a lot of us been waiting for, with bated breath for a while. There have been some near misses in months past, but it's so cool to see this. I mean, you know, there are different ways to look at this. One of the ways that I have enjoyed looking at this, and that I've seen other people look at it, is as the shattering of a glass ceiling. I mean, she's the first woman to ever punch through that 1,000-point barrier to 4 digits on a PDGA number. You know, just from you know, an equity and parity perspective, that is so cool to see. She absolutely shreds. It is great to see the numbers reflect a fantastic disc golfer, and in my very brief experience, a very fantastic human too. So super jacked up for Kristen. This is awesome.
So excited to see it finally happen. We got very, very close to seeing 1,000 rated woman with Paige Pierce in 2020, I believe. It was before the Pro Tour shut down. 2021. 1 year off, close enough. But she got to, I believe it was 997. Could have crept up on the. I'm also wrong there. 996.
996.
996. Again, one off. Geez, I'm so close, but so far. Excuse me. Got to 996. Could have crept up on that 1,000 rated mark going into, I believe she was going into the Texas swing, and then got beat up a little bit by the courses there. So it's just amazing to see it finally happen. I do agree with you, Sean, that it'll probably be a while before we see anyone touch this level again. I mean, second highest rated woman in the world right now is Owen Scoggins at 987, Evelina Salonen 984, Missy Gannon 981. That is That's a big difference. And then to average 1,000 to get your rating up like that is is wild. I do think, however, that this is going to be, you know, a few years down the line, with the way that the FBO field is continuing to raise the skill level. I mean, of course, the streak ended, but I think it was six, maybe 7 straight events to start the year where the FBO winner was averaging 1,000 rated for the tournament. So the skill level is continuing to rise. In, you know, a decade from now, we're going to have multiple women at 1,000 rated, which is so exciting to think about the prospect of that. But Kristen being the first one, being the ambassador for disc golf that she is, like you said, Galen, I haven't had the pleasure of actually meeting her in person like you have, but seems like an incredible human being as well. I listened to her on a podcast today, and hearing her talk about how much, like, you know, the personal stuff in her life still matters to her, and how much that factors into like her touring life and everything that she does. She's just so level-headed, down to earth, and couldn't happen to a better person, and obviously a better player, because she is so good.
Two questions. Two questions.
Hit it, Sean.
First, is Paige Pierce's 996 that she got 3 years ago actually more impressive, given the field strength at the time, the courses and things like that? Was it harder for her to hit 996 than it is to hit 1,000 in 2024? What, throwing that out there. And second, how much quicker could Kristen have reached 1,000 if Silverlot stayed at home and didn't pick up her bag and cause her to lose points and strokes all over the place, all over these courses for this year. There you go. There's my 2 charms.
Seems like it would have been a lot sooner if Kristen
Absolutely.
would just carry her own bag.
Curse
Your
of silver.
your theory is catching on too. I'm starting to hear it from people at tournaments and whatnot talking about the same theory. So you are feeding some earworms to people and getting that into some brains. And the page aspect is definitely interesting. I think that this is still more impressive. Maybe you could make an argument that I guess it was harder for Paige to continue to raise her rating when just over time ratings inflation has made ratings go up, and so that was kind of working against her. And then less players that were higher rated that she was playing against, so there was less ratings to like go be compared with hers to help like boost it up even higher.
Rising tide lifting all boats.
Exactly. So I think there could be an argument made, but I think this is still more impressive. Kristen, in a field that is stronger than ever on the FPO side, now, albeit this hasn't been the start to the year of dominant Kristen that we would expect, but she still has 3 wins already this year. Hasn't won a major yet, but still has 3 Elite Series wins, and is the best player on the planet continually. Even when she puts up bad weeks by her standards, is still finishing in the top 5 in a super deep FPO field. So I would say that this is still more impressive. But what do you think?
Even 5 years ago, it basically would not have even been possible to get 1,000 rated.
I don't know. I think it's 2 very different things. Like we were talking about before with I've already lost the topic we were talking about. With the playoffs, where you're looking at 2 different conversations. I mean, 2 things that are measuring different mental and physical skills. I mean, I don't know what the field looked like, who the next closest person was to Paige, or how many folks were within whatever number of points of her. But I would imagine the gap between a 996 and the next couple of closest people was perhaps more meaningful than the gap between Kristen and her next closest competitors now. Something I was pulling up just before we sort of launched into this was comparing on the FPO side to the MPO side. So there's a 13-point gap right now between Kristen and Own. If you take 13 points between the first rated player on the MPO side and see who's 13 points down, there are 13 players in that margin. So to get 13 points down on MPO, you've got to go through 13 players. To get 13 points between Kristen and the next closest competition, there's 1. That is a pretty wide margin. Even in a very competitive field, that's meaningful.
Absolutely.
The other piece for me is the mental piece. I think that getting to 996 at a moment in time in an era where that was unheard of is shockingly impressive. But I would also say whether it's Paige, whether it's maybe Haley this weekend and that out of bounds call, when you're so close to being able to taste a massive accomplishment like pushing that 4-digit barrier, I think saying that that's not going to affect even the people at the very top of this sport is probably not looking at this in a reasonable or accurate way. So, I mean, some things we've seen for Paige in the past, I'm not saying anything negative about her, but I can't imagine that there's a world in which being at 996 and going, oh my God, I'm so close to 1,000, wouldn't enter into her mind. That entered into Kristen's mind in the same way, and she pushed her way through. And I think that counts for something as well. The fact that there's all this additional pressure that has to have been added to Paige's shoulders at the time of being right there, and she wasn't able to get to that next promised land. And that there's all that pressure there now, especially after having somebody else be so close on Kristen, and she pushed through. Even if we're in a world where we're acknowledging, and I don't know if this is the case, where we're considering that it might be more objectively impressive from a quality of competition perspective to post a 996 in 2021 versus a 1,000 in 2024. The fact that 1,000 is 1,000 means something too.
Absolutely does.
And takes the edge by a nose. Incredibly proud and impressed by her.
The symbolic aspect of hitting 1,000 rated, I think, is almost even more like important or impressive than just hitting 1,000 in this era. Just being the first woman to ever be 1,000 rated to finally, like you said, break that glass ceiling is so huge, and it's a milestone in disc golf history. You know, for a sport that was started in the mid 70s, I believe, is when the PDGA was founded.
1300s, something like that. Oh,
sure, yeah, we're totally on the same page. I think it was 1974. The PDGA was founded, I believe, and through, you know, all the historic moments in disc golf, this is another chapter to add to that, and incredibly exciting to see. But boys, it has been a awesome episode. Galen, it is so good to have you back. What a jam-packed episode. So fun to have Sofia in for an interview. We've got lots of disc golf to look forward to. The year just keeps on pushing through. And that's going to do it for this episode of Missed Mando. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And for Sean Galbraith and Galen Naidu-Harris, I am Robbie Holden. This has been Missed Mando, and we'll see you on the course.